the city planning to host a summit, civil society, private development, governmental sector around the future of the city, the growth of the city, what we do when it comes to spatial plan. We are a growing city. It is projected, according to the mayor and his office, that in the next few years, Cape Town may even overtake Johannesburg as South Africa's most populous city. And there will come a time when we all need to acknowledge that the days of large plots and long driveways are a thing of the past, and that it will be too expensive for particularly newer homeowners. We're going to have to look at a future of densification. So we thought we'd get some insight here from someone within the city of Cape Town to talk about the plans over the next few decades. We're joined by Annelise De Bruin, Manager of Metro Spatial Planning and Growth Management in the city of Cape Town. Good morning, Annelise. Really appreciate your time. What are some of the challenges that we're looking at in the city as we look not just to 2030, 2040, but 2030, the midterm outlook for the city as a growing city and our availability for land and space?
Good morning. Yes, good morning. I'm Annelise. Yeah, so it's a very interesting 2 days we've had with the private sector, other government levels, and then the city of Cape Town, working in the different line departments from transport to human settlements to environment. And yes, and we were debating the assumptions that we have to use about planning for the future of Cape Town. So yeah, you are right. It is going to be an interesting time. We are obviously in our cycles of long-term planning. This product is what we call the land use model. It is an urbanization exercise. So we try and find out how many people do we think is going to arrive in Cape Town, what kind of houses or places would they be willing to stay in or be interested to stay in or can afford to stay in. We're also trying to figure out how many businesses would be arriving in Cape Town or industrialists, and how much land would we need for offices and retail and so on. So it was a very interesting exercise. Cape Town is definitely growing, and Cape Town is definitely growing fast. So, there was also a discussion on, if we continue to remain the city of hope, what a city of hope means for different kind of people, because people do arrive here with the expectation to get a job or a house, or to get a job so that they can afford a house. So, there was a lot of discussion on densification. As you rightly said, we are having a shortage of land. We also have very valuable biodiversity resources that we have to protect, because that's kind of like one of our assets. And then we also see that the world of work is changing. Many people are trying to work on the internet, and there's a lot of technology changes that affect industrialists and those that are generating income from the city.
And Liz, do we you said the availability of land. Do we have an issue of the availability of land? Do we have a land shortage? Our natural geography says that we have ocean to our south and to the west of the city. We have mountain ranges towards the east, and we have this corridor up north, Parkland, Sunningdale, Parkland's north, Atlantis is from what I can see is the only available land in terms of a city to grow. But then you also say we also have to take in environmental and conservation considerations.
Yeah. No, the city has been working on its long-term plans. Every 5 or so years we review it, and these products are called the Municipal Spatial Development Frameworks, and there are also plans for every neighborhood. So anybody who's on the call or on the radio, they can even investigate what the city and the citizens in Cape Town has planned for up to neighborhood level. So it's called district spatial planning and local spatial planning. And in those documents that's on the city's website, and that has been approved by council in 2023 of the massive public engagement, one can even see where your neighborhood would be growing and which pockets of land in your neighborhood would be open for development. But I think what we've seen is that the solution for housing and for providing more opportunities for those who are arriving in Cape Town is actually with everybody who owns a piece of land or a unit. There's a very big drive from the mayor that everybody needs to be part of the solution. And I think that's also what we discovered yesterday, is that there are multiple opportunities for people who own a house to to put more houses in the front of their yard and more houses at the back of their yard and build flats. And so there is definitely a change in the legislation by council, which is in our development management scheme and our bylaws, where we are facilitating opportunities for landowners to cut their house into 2 or 3 and to put more granny flats on and to become part of the solution in terms of offering rental opportunities for others.
So when we're talking about the concept of densification, and I have heard some of the older residents of the city of Cape Town decrying densification, but that's simply a reality. If you go to any other major city around the world, one of the largest cities in the world, you don't have the luxury of off-street parking. And if you have off-street parking, you don't have a garden. If you have a small little garden, I'm sorry, you're going to have to park on the street. And it's even maybe suggested you don't even have a car, because then we need to work on public transport. But what we've come to enjoy from working to even middle-class communities is the privilege of space. That even if you live in a working class community, you have space. Is that a thing of the past? And if that is a thing of the past, what are then the options for recreational facilities, for green open spaces? How do we balance that? We need to start building up instead of building laterally, but also ensuring we have the freedoms and the rights and the privileges of green spaces as well.
Yeah. Now, at yesterday's Indaba, it was quite interesting. Both the Community Facilities Department as well as the Western Cape Government for Health and Education both presented on their plans for the future, and so did the Environmental Department. And I think what's interesting is that their view is that they can live with increased citizens and more people arriving in Cape Town, but they are working very hard to declare the assets that they think is important to stay as sort of crown jewels and, kind of untouchable. So there's a very big rationalization and optimization exercise where they kind of go through the city, every piece of land that's owned by this, that, or the other person or the city, and saying, okay, how important is this for the protection in the future? And then they put measures into place to prioritize those land assets and develop it. So there's a kind of very strong focus on choosing the land parcels for recreation and sport and open spaces and sorting out what is absolutely essential to protect and redevelop in the future. So it's not like we try and keep all the assets and all the land we've had before. It's much more a manicured look at which of these are centrally located. It's going to be on a big, transport route. It will forever be centrally located for whoever stays in this neighborhood, and we need to really reinvest in this. And there's all sorts of discussions ongoing about involving the private sector, making land on large sports facilities available for private sector development, so that it can be better for all.
If I were to ever run any form of political campaign, this is my suggestion, Annelise, is that school facilities in terms of sports fields should be made public facilities, particularly, or the public should have access. Start with government public schools, and then later we can talk about my private institutions, because we're living in communities with built up walls. Some may have a green belt, some may even have parks. But I feel if we're going to be living in more densely populated areas of building up, these availabilities of land that we're seeing in terms of schools, we need to utilize that for greater public good and not just for schools between 8 and 3 during the course of the day. But Annelise De Bruin, really appreciate your time.